The Sportscast, March 2nd, 2022. If you haven't yet, please subscribe in all our channels, twitch.tv, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. You can also listen to us on your smart speaker. Also visit our website, thesportscast.net, and of course you can download our app, The Sportscast, for iOS. Yesterday, the strike continues for Major League Baseball between them and the Players Union. Opening day is most likely not going to happen on March 31st until a deal is going to happen, but this is looking more like 1994. And join us, a man that understands baseball and who can hit a baseball, Ryan Christa. Welcome back to the Sportscast.
I don't know how good of a he can hit a baseball, but trying to teach my son how to, so we'll see.
It's tough. For me, is the throwing. Throwing is the toughest. So the hitting, not too bad.
Yeah, it's an American tradition growing up, learning to hit and catch. So
hopefully your son will do better. Anyways,
yes, hopefully, as my dad said, I have an arm like a leg because my throw is a very long drive. But so yesterday was not a good day for baseball fans across America for sure.
Yeah, so obviously the deal is between the Players Union and Major League Baseball, which was an issue last year, I believe, and they resolved it. But this year became more like they were trying to make things happen. I believe one of the issues is the guarantee contracts. They didn't want that. Ryan, explain a little more in detail what's happening in the world of baseball.
So the key word is, you used the word strike earlier. Not to be critical, but actually the word we're looking at is a lockout.
Lockout.
The difference is,
correct. Sorry about that.
Yes. So no, it's just a technical term, meaning that it's owners that are the ones that are basically not opening. They're the ones that have decided to opt out of the deal. Right, would be a player, not to say. So basically, the owners going to continue the way business is, and they the players don't want to. They want there's what the competitive balance tax. So basically, meaning that at a certain level, if you spend so much, i.e. Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, you get taxed heavily for that. And that money that you get taxed goes to all the teams. So in theory, the team, what the problem is that you've got a lot of teams like your hometown Miami Marlins, the Pittsburgh Pirates, to extent even though they're good, the Tampa Bay Rays, where instead of using that money to spend on players, the owners are basically just keeping that money and not paying the players and not trying to put a winning product on the field. And the players, want to keep that, while the players are saying no. We want to that tax, threshold to be higher. And we want not necessarily that. And then on the other side, they want a floor, meaning that teams have to spend, if there is going to be a quote unquote salary cap or tax, they want all the other teams who aren't spending a lot of money to have to spend a certain amount on their salaries. That's kind of the big hiccup right now. There was some other issues, the way, how they do the draft, and what makes baseball different than other sports is that when you get promoted to the major leagues, you have to play so many games to get a new contract, or you have to have so many years of service, they say, and then you can earn your first, real contract. They want kind of those terms of, they worked out a lot of that early on, but kind of always in the background was this, how much money are the owners going to have to spend on salaries, and basically the owners have put a line in the sand, and the players have put the line in the sand, and they're nowhere near each other on the financials. because it's a lockout, the owners have, put a lot of pressure on the players to accept a deal so they don't lose out on salary. And the players basically said nope. And I think they thought maybe owners were, bluffing on canceling the season, but, the owners and Rob Manfred, yesterday afternoon after talks ended, basically canceled the first two series, and I think in the next day or so they'll probably cancel, the next couple of series. Things don't look promising. I think today they're taking the cooling off day. I don't think there's much talks going on. But I think they were talking for a long time this last couple of days. They just never really able to find some neutral ground on the hard topics.
The fight was years in the making, with players angered that payrolls decreased by 4% from 2015 through last year. Many teams jettisoned a portion of a high-priced veteran journeyman in favor of a lower-priced youth, and some clubs gave up on competing in the short term to better position themselves for future years. So, as Ryan has stated, it is a payroll issue. Payments, even though these players get paid a lot of money.
Well, here's an interesting fact, Santiago, that I heard yesterday. 61% of major league players make less than $1 million a year. And I know we're talking big money here, and that's still, for everybody out here listening, that, they're making more money than we could probably dream of, even if they're not making $1 million. But, I think, they're trying to not just they want to get everybody paid. So, you have a whole team of, the Pittsburgh Pirates where everybody's making under $1 million, where then you got, they're struggling to put a winning team on the field. Well, obviously, you go look on the other side, you've got the Red Sox and Yankees spending more than excessive amount of money on putting competitive, because they're willing to spend money, and that's why they're, always at the top of their division. I think what they're looking for is you want all these teams, if they're getting money back on a tax, they shouldn't be cheaping out on these players in the sense of, they should be paying them a fair salary compared to where, they would be getting if they were going to other teams, and I think a lot of this issue, and you were saying journeymen, a lot of these free agents the last couple of years, in years past, we're getting these massive deals. I think for what day, it's usually, let's say November 1st is the beginning of the baseball season for the upcoming year. That a lot of these free agents weren't getting signed until spring training was about to start, and they would have to take these low deals because it was almost like all the owners were ganging up and saying, we're not going to overspend on these players now, so we're going to let you're going to have to take a lower deal because we're not, to all these veteran players, or you're not going to get any deal at all, and we're just going to go and spend money on, an entry level, a lower player, and take your position. Kind of like, like I said at the beginning, when you first get to major leagues, you really make pennies on the dollar compared to when you play so much in the major leagues, and then you can earn your first real deal. So instead of, playing instead of paying these big name free agents, these XF contracts that we're doing for so many years, the market kind of corrected itself, and now the owners are basically saying, no, we're not going to go right off the bat and overspend. It's almost like all 30 owners are saying to all these veteran players, take a step back. We're not going to overspend, and you're going to have to take this deal, or you're not going to play at all. So I think, the players are saying, hold on here. You have to pay us. You can't keep on doing this. It's not fair. And the owners are like, well, that's the system we have right now. So they're trying to correct that system. Does that kind of make sense, Santiago?
Yes, it makes a lot of sense. A lot of balancing, of course, and how the market's doing and how the players are getting paid. Now, you said 60% of Major League Baseball players get paid under $1 million?
Yeah, because, and a lot
that's not including the minors.
No, minors are definitely getting paid under $1 million for sure.
Oh, okay.
We're talking about, but within a 40-man roster, you probably, of this 40-man rosters, the back end of that 40, most of those are minor league players that have the option of going up and back and forth between the majors and minors. So those are the type of players that are definitely making under $1 million. And then also, a big thing that they had to work out too is major league players don't like to be called back down to the minor leagues. So they want to limit, how many times you can send a player back and forth, in the course of a year. Because, and that's another issue that, major league owners are really not putting a lot of money into the minor leagues, in the way of
What they're
salary,
supposed
not
to
just
do.
salary, but also conditions, that because of their salary, and travel, they're kind of living in what they deem as subpar conditions, and that's the reason why major league players aren't really wanting to go back to the minors and all that. So
What's the
there's
average
this,
salary for the minor leagues?
I mean, you're probably, it depends what, if you're a high ranked prospect or not, but I mean, if it's probably under $100,000 for most of them, where, but
50
if you're a
grand,
player that's
39 grand.
yeah, but if you're one on people on a 40-man roster, you're probably making well over 100,000. They're probably closer to $2,000 or $3,000, $100,000. But if you're a career minor leaguer and you're playing in single and double A, you're definitely you're not making big money for sure. It's not the glamour lifestyle that people tend to think.
It will be the ninth work stoppage in MLB history. It will also be the fourth that causes regular season games to be canceled. Ryan, how severe is this? Do you think things will start? I mean, obviously not in March, maybe April, May, or do you or you want to see more things happening before you make this brutal prediction?
I mean, I would say, I don't think they'll hopefully not go into May, but I think, like I said, I think in the next couple of days, if nothing gets done, they'll postpone another series, put pressure on the players. They kind of, same way that, they're putting pressure on these veterans to take, these lower deals. They're trying to put pressure on players who are owners are rich and they're, obviously they're missing money, they're missing gate, revenues, all that, but they're still rich, Santiago. And, players, their livelihood of making money for so many years is by playing in games. And games aren't being played, they're not making money. And there might be a deal when they get a deal done, if the players eventually take a deal that the owners are like that, maybe they'll give back the money that they missed, in the month that there wasn't playing games. There's kind of talks of that, like kind of, back salary, as you say. But I would hopefully by May 1st there'll be baseball. But the problem is baseball thinks that, forgets that baseball isn't what it used to be. And every time there's a work stoppage, they lose fans. I think if you put on, Twitter, right now in February, kind of end of February, if you like baseball, most people have been getting into college baseball, Santiago. It's an entertaining product. They play for the fun of it. It's offensive minded. It's a good product, especially in the South. Where the weather's already turned. It's very popular. And every time there's no day of Major League Baseball, you lose a chance of losing more fans for the future.
So, yeah, exactly. It is. People are focused now more on the NBA, of course, the NFL Combine, which starts this week. So we'll definitely keep an eye on what's going to happen. It's not 1994. We can't say that yet, right?
No, and baseball kind of. So you had a 94 strike, which was terrible. Canceled, the World Series and all that.
Which got Michael Jordan back to basketball as well.
Yes. But, to win back fans, basically, but see, like the commissioner turned a blind eye to the steroid problem, and in return, you had Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa hitting home runs, Barry Bonds, to kind of win back fans and putting a lot of positive spin on the sport, for short term. Well, yes, they had to pay the price, they had the big, federal court cases, with steroids and all that. But it was a way that Major League Baseball could kind of gain back, the viewership, with the home run chases and all that. I don't know what they'll do if, they have a long-term shortage, what stoppage, how they're going to be able to win back fans. Baseball, I don't say it's a dying breed, Santiago, but it's not, there's years
It's
ago
declining.
where, baseball could do no wrong. Kind of the way we think of football, Santiago. Football could have a stoppage. And people are so desperate because we love the game so much here in America that they'll be okay with that, even though they might be frustrated. They're going to go back to the game. I don't know. You're necessarily going to always get that in baseball. There's so many other things to do in the summertime across the country because pretty much everywhere it's nice weather.
And it's hot. Yeah. And we definitely need baseball this summer because there's no World Cup.
Yeah, that's true. But, April, another kind of a positive here, especially here in Minor League City, USA, Rochester, New York, that no matter what, on April 12th, I can go to all the way downtown Rochester and watch my AAA Rochester Red Wings play because it's not really affected by the work stoppage, because, like I said, how teams have 40-man rosters, like as most of the minor leagues aren't part of the 40-man roster. So anybody that's not part of that, they can still play in the minor leagues, and that will still go on as scheduled.
And I don't think Kyler Murray should be thinking about going into baseball this year.
I don't know. He seems a little upset with the Cardinals here, so we'll see. We'll see if he reports to Oakland Athletics camp here.
Exactly. We'll definitely keep everyone up to date with Major League Baseball. As Ryan was saying, things are kind of declining. Ryan, there's one topic that I was talking to someone the other day about these contracts of certain players where they have guaranteed contracts, right? And they say they play one season, but they're owed money every year. There was this one player, I believe was from the Mets.
Bobby Bonilla.
Yes, yep. He gets paid $1 million every July. Does Major League Baseball want to get rid of that type of contracts?
So what happened, Bobby Bonilla, was one of the first players to get these large contracts years ago. The Mets fell into some financial problems. So basically deferred his whole contract over it's so many years that I think it's March 1st he gets paid, $1 million. I thought it was just the other day he gets paid $1 million. It's either March 1st or July 1st. I can't remember what day it is. But he gets $1 million check from the Mets organization. Basically, it's a deferred payment. So, so each contract in Major League Baseball is guaranteed, So if you sign, that contract, you got to pay us. That's the problem, with the Yankees out with Alex Rodriguez. They gave him at such late stage of his career, a 10-year, whatever, $350 million contract. They had to see that out because they had to pay that money whether he was on the team. So they could send him, trade him. If you trade a guy, you're probably paying his salary anyway, so you might as well keep him. So that's why I think that's the market correction I was talking about, Santiago. That you have all these high-priced free agent or veteran free agents. When they're able to sign new teams, there was always the habit of teams were as soon as they're able to go and way overspend on players. That's not how they're doing now. They're letting them go through a whole winter, to start a spring training, and all of a sudden these guys don't have any contracts and they're going to have to take, a smaller it might be, some might be $25 million, but it's only over 1 or 2 years instead of these mega long contracts where these teams are indebted to these players for so many years. And that's kind of the correction, the medium that the players and owners are trying to look for is, okay, if you have a veteran player who's got a lot of years left in him, don't give him a 1-year blah 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 contract. Give him. You can take a couple $2 million off of it and extend that contract for over years because he's earned it. Instead of kind of lowballing these players per se. Just because they want to get some kind of contract.
Yes, these contracts are definitely different from the other leagues like the NBA and the NFL. So we'll see how things flesh out in the next few days or weeks. But for baseball is America's pastime. Hope to see it back again. Sticking with baseball, yesterday Derek Jeter stepped down as the Marlins CEO. He says the vision for the future of the franchise is different from the one I signed up to lead. Now is the right time for me to step aside as a new season begins. He started about a couple years ago in September. Ryan, what are your thoughts? And is this a good thing for the Marlins or not?
It just kind of shows you what I said when we started this conversation. What are the Marlins doing? They're taking their best young prospects when they have, they don't want to pay these big contracts. So they go and after so many years, they'll trade them away and get more, But they traded away a guy like Giancarlo Stanton. Since he's been in the Yankees, he hasn't been great. Yes. But, that's a guy, if he kept in Miami, he'd be a franchise player. Christian Yelich, an MVP for the Brewers. Traded him away. These are things that were done on Derek Jeter's watch, and I think he was done wanting the Marlins to keep on trading away their best young players for more players. Instead, he wanted to start building upon the players they had, and I think the organization, they don't want to spend money, and that's kind of where it's at. And Derek Jeter, being part of the Yankees for so long, and the Yankees build their teams one way, and he kind of wanted the Marlins to do that, through free agency, spending money, and that's just not the Marlins way.
Yes, Caroline O'Connor will manage day-to-day business operations for the Marlins, and while the team searches for a new CEO. So we'll see if a new CEO will help this team out, bring some fans, because it's a good stadium to find seats. That I will tell you. NFL Combine. Yeah, go ahead.
Let me ask you before we move to the Combine. Why, I think it was such a Hispanic Cuban population where baseball is very popular. Why in Miami can't they, on a game-to-game basis, not fill up a stadium, but make a semi look good? There's nothing like going to seeing a stadium that's desolate. Now, I understand day games or whatever, some games, but you can't turn on a Marlins game without that stadium, being empty. Or what's the problem?
I think it's a cultural thing. I think if the team's not winning, or if it's not sexy, which could be winning, they don't show up. One team that I think couldn't get away with it is the Miami Heat for some reason. They bring in fans. But the Marlins, for some reason, there's just some type of cultural thing. They just don't see it, And I guess, for me, I'm not a huge baseball fan at all. But if they're struggling or they're not winning, then there's no reason to show up, which is my theory. It's not, which is a consensus of everyone. I know up north, they show up no matter if they're winning or losing, which is very similar to the Red Sox theory, right?
Yeah, and that's kind of Northeast sports are different, I think, than especially Florida sports. In the Northeast, it seems like they show up for everything.
Yeah,
they'll show up in the cold to watch football. They'll show up in the middle of summer to watch baseball. It's just kind of.
And there's also so many other events going on in the city. It's warm here in Miami, so you could do several stuff. Go eat out, go to another sports team. So up north, it's cold. So you kind of are, well, not cold, but it's kind of like selective stuff. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
I could write an article about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I think for so long you're like, oh, it's the stadium. The Dolphins Stadium isn't good for baseball. It's weird looking. It's hot. Okay,
Also,
we'll build a stadium.
location-wise, where they built the stadium, it wasn't really ideal. It's kind of an interesting neighborhood, to say the least.
Yeah, I heard that. It's where the Orange Bowl was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of run down. If they put it up a little bit north, maybe near the up near Hard Rock Stadium, perhaps. But man, it's just the logistics. When you build a stadium, it's kind of new, so they probably won't do anything for the next upcoming years. But anyways, hopefully with the new CEO, we can bring in more fans and more wins. So, well, more wins than fans. Okay, all right. NFL Combine. A couple of news this week. We know that Garoppolo has shoulder surgery, which is what expected because he had shoulder issues throughout the playoffs. Dak Prescott had a shoulder procedure, had to clean things up. What Mark McCarthy said. What are your thoughts, and also the NFL Combine this week?
Shoulder surgeries, I think, in quarterbacks, especially what Dak Prescott had, are not uncommon and nothing really to worry about. Jimmy Garoppolo has an injury. He had injuries for, all through the year, kind of played through a lot of pain. I think his is interesting because it's a little bit more. He's out for like a long period of time. I think throughout the summer, where he can't throw the ball, and basically it kind of handcuffs the 49ers a little bit, Santiago, because obviously they're probably looking to trade him. And they know they're not going to get a whole lot from him. But right now, Jimmy Garoppolo couldn't pass the physical because he can't throw the ball, so it's kind of handcuffed with him right now. And I don't think anybody's going to take a chance on, not being able to have him pass the physical. So that's kind of the more intriguing issue for me. And I like the combine this couple of days, not necessarily for the workouts, but, they're hit or miss. But it's really the first time where all 30 GMs and coaches kind of talk and they're kind of laying out, their goals for the offseason, what they want to accomplish, are they going to, what they're looking for in the draft, so you kind of be able to kind of each, front office kind of cast a vision for their team in the future.
Yeah, and this is they did not have a combine last year, but the year prior they didn't either. It was during the pandemic, so it's been a 2-3 year hiatus for the combine. Malik Willis, will he be at the combine this year?
Absolutely. He's a guy who there's two different, you have players that'll show up and do their measurables. Like there's, if you're rated in the top 5 and you're in the top 5, you're going to show up, they're going to measure you, how tall you are, your height, your weight, and all that. But you're probably not going to do anything else beyond it because you're not going to want to do anything that's going to hurt your stock. Malik Willis is in a position where he's trying to help his stock. So he's going to do everything. And the combine was kind of made for him because he's a freak athlete. That's his biggest asset is his speed, his athleticism. And he's going to kill it. I think the Senior Bowl was a nice surprise for everybody because we kind of thought that he would struggle, with some of the, the drills and the practice. But he was kind of a shining light. And I think everybody thought he was going to struggle in the Senior Bowl and kick butt in the combine. So hopefully he still kicks butt in the combine here. And he's going to, because the quarterback, I don't know if all, 12 quarterbacks didn't throw. I'm assuming most of them are because, most of them are in a position, Malik Willis, where they're trying to move up. If you're in a position that, say, Trevor Lawrence knew he was going to be number 1 pick. So he's not going to go and he's not going to throw at the combine. I think he threw at his pro day at Clemson. And that's where most of these guys are going to do a lot of their football activities at their pro day because it's on campus. They're going to throw to people that they're comfortable with, their own wide receivers. Where if you go to, when you come here, you're throwing to wideouts you don't really know, and not obviously everybody's trying to make an impact. So, but you might not have that chemistry. You're probably going to have chemistry with, your own wide receivers that you played with for the last couple of years. But most of these quarterbacks, because none of them are coming in, as surefire, top 10 picks, and none of them may go top 10. most of them have the ability to climb, so you're going to see them do as much as possible. There's somebody like Kenny Pickett, which I think he might have the highest upside because he's got a good arm. He's pretty accurate. He's good at everything. He's not great at anything. But what he's limited on, what people are worried about, is his hand size. And what was the biggest worry for Joe Burrow? His hand size. So I don't think it's a big deal, but I think people are going to want to see how that ball comes out of his hands with an NFL football compared to college football. But I do expect Malik Willis to kind of kick butt in, the 40 and, some of the agility stuff. And I think tomorrow night in prime time is the actual throwing for the quarterbacks, which they're moving. So normally the combine happens during the day when most people at work, but kind of like anything else, they've turned the combine to made for TV events. So all the big workouts are going to be actually done on NFL Network during the nighttime.
Pretty exciting NFL Combine all this week till Monday, so we'll see if anyone's draft value goes up or goes down. And a lot of teams gather together providing news, snippets of what's going to happen and what else. Anyways, Ryan Christa, tell us about your show on Sunday night, Hoops Talk. Great first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I really enjoyed hanging out with my new buddy, Erwin Dudley, former Alabama superstar, SEC, legend. We just talk college basketball, we talk NBA, we're these next couple of weeks we're gearing up for March Madness, and in ways of the NBA, we're kind of, laying the foundation for the home stretch of the regular season. So if you're basketball, Sunday nights, 9 o'clock, catch me and Mr. Dudley doing our thing.
9 p.m. Eastern, all together, NBA and college. Hard to do, but they do it pretty well. Predictions tonight, Pacers at the Magic. Who you got?
Pacers. I think they had a nice win against the Celtics the other day. So, I think they're playing pretty well after the trade deadline, so I'm going to go with them.
The Heat at the Bucks.
And a nice, good matchup there. I'm going to go the Heat.
Interesting. Potential Eastern Conference championship game.
Yeah. I think big matchup tonight is Joel Embiid and James Harden first game together at home against the Knicks, and I think they're gonna. I think the Knicks are gonna be in the wrong spot at the wrong time tonight, Santiago.
We'll see what happens to this Knicks team, and the Hawks are not doing so pretty this year, but there's some time to turn things around. Ryan, what is the best way to reach you online to talk to you about baseball and Hoops Talk? Hoops Talk.
Mad Dog Report on Twitter.
Mad Dog Report. Of course, you can reach us at thesportscast.net and the Sportscast 1. Tomorrow night, we got Jersey Boys Sports Talk. They're thinking about getting rid of Saquon Barkley. He's on the docket. What do you think? Should they let him go, Ryan?
Well, I think when you're not a good team like the Giants, if you can turn one player into a couple of good players, I think that's what you're trying to do. They're a really bad team, Santiago, the Giants. Holes all and I think they need to really revamp the offense line because you don't matter who's back at running back or quarterback, if you can't protect them or give them holes, what value is anybody back there? So I think that's what Brian Dable and I can't get what the new GM's name is, but Joe something.
Shane. Joe Shane.
Joe Shane.
That's how you pronounce it. It spells like Sean, but it's pronounced Shane.
You're exactly right, and I know. Yes, he's a Buffalo guy here,
which is mostly a Buffalo staff appears. Anyways, go on.
Yeah, so they're trying. If you look at what happened for Buffalo, you find the right quarterback like they did in Josh Allen, and what they did right in Buffalo is they didn't do an extreme roster turnover right away. It's finding plugging holes as you go along. There's a couple year process to right now where Santiago, 13 seconds, we may be talking about the Bills being Super Bowl champions,
You would think.
Yeah, so I mean, they're basically they haven't reached the top, but you're at the point where you're plugging in minor holes. Well, when Brandon Beane got to Buffalo, there was major holes to fill. So the point of organizations are totally different, and that's what Joe Shea, what do we call it?
Joe Shane.
Shane is going to try to do in New York is each year fill in a couple holes. Whether Daniel Jones is a long-term quarterback, I don't think so, but I don't think they're going to change quarterbacks right now because I think Daniel Jones is doable enough, where he's not going to hurt the organization by being the
And
quarter.
the Giants owner has made it clear that he wants to keep Jones.
Yeah, and so basically what you have to do too, Santiago, is you've got a quarterback under a rookie contract, so meaning he doesn't get paid very much, is not killing your salary cap. So go and fill these holes in while your quarterback is not making a lot of money. So then when you've filled in all the other holes, and maybe you're ready to bring in either a free agent quarterback or you're ready to draft, the next quarterback. So it's to me, that I don't think they'll trade Saquon Barkley because I think he's a fan favorite, and I think you have to get some reason for people to come to games. But I wouldn't be surprised either.
A lot of draft picks can be accumulated with a trade like that. So they got rid of Kyle Rudolph this morning or yesterday. So he's not retired, but maybe he could be used for the Broncos. No, I was going to say the Broncos. I don't know if they need a tight end there. But
No.
we'll definitely keep the valve on NFL teams. Watson, I've been hearing, will be traded. That's what I've been hearing. Back to Garoppolo. No. I heard they might keep him for another season. They say Trey Lance is not ready to start. That's what my people are telling me.
Yeah, you might be right, like Santiago. Like I said, I don't know if it was a 49ers choice for him to have surgery right now. I don't think so. Like it's just I don't know. Like,
well,
it makes
it's not too late. It's a couple of weeks out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I could definitely see him keep him because that's another team that's got a pretty good roster. Jimmy Garoppolo is a serviceable quarterback. There's nothing wrong with him. But when push came to shove, and you needed that fourth quarter drive against the Rams, Matt Stafford was able to deliver that to you. Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't.
Exactly.
And that's the difference. Jimmy Garoppolo brings you to the division round, the championship round, but you need that quarterback can lead you on that drive, and in the special moments, and that's I don't know if that's him yet, and I don't know if that's Trey Lance. But when you draft a guy number 3, you have to give him a chance sooner than later. You got to see what you got. But there's also this, when you play a quarterback and he's probably not ready, you're kind of punting on the season a little bit because he's going to struggle. So they're kind of, I think, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are really, in the war room, saying, what do they need to do? What's the best option? But if somebody gives them a deal they can't say no to, I think they got to take it. And to me, actually, Jimmy Garoppolo is good enough to take a team like the Steelers and keep them going to the playoffs. They've got a nice playoff streak of winning, being above 500. And I think that gives you enough. If you bring in a Jimmy Garoppolo and then you draft another quarterback with it, it's got to be a combo for me,
I don't know if Jimmy G will like that again.
But he's got to understand where he is in his career. You know what I mean?
Okay, how about the Shaun Watson? Where do you think he'll go?
I don't know. I have no idea. I know he'll be traded. They got to move on from this. This is like
Will the Broncos take him?
I think there's a pecking order. Obviously, you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers, and I think
which he decides in 2 weeks. March 16th, he said he'll decide.
Yeah, and I think all signs are pointed to him signing one of those short-term deals. He wants to be the highest-paid player in the NFL. And when your quarterback makes that much money, it's hard to put a quality roster together. But you can kind of maneuver it if it's a 1 or 2 year deal. So I think they're going to give him a monster contract. I think he's in good graces with the management, better than he was last year. But I don't think there's a fully trust with him. But I think if they can say, we can give you this 1 or 2 year mega deal, and along with doing a 1 or 2 year deal, we're able to sign Devontae Adams as go-to guy to a longer deal. I think what they'll end up doing is signing him to Aaron Rodgers a short-term contract worth, we're making him the highest paid, at least quarterback in the NFL, and then at least franchise tag Devonta Adams for a short-term, and hopefully work out a long-term deal with him, either through this offseason, or next year.
Ryan, you're going all
Because
front office on me now.
yeah, the things that this is to me is any sports season. There's two parts. There's the actual season, and then I think a lot of it's a fun part is you putting yourselves in the way of a GM in any sport. What factors are, what's the decision behind the decision. What's the consequences. And what's the chances they're taking. I think I don't even think the Packers even have that great of a roster, though. Santiago
Yeah,
overall,
it is kind of thin. They had to grind out some games this past season.
Yeah, I mean, when Aaron Rodgers doesn't play his best like he did in that playoff game against the 49ers, they don't do good. And another sign to me that he's probably going to want to stay is one of his other best friends is David Bakhtiari, a lineman who's one of the best interior linemen who's been out for almost a long time for knee issues. But he was he basically restructured his deal to save some salary cap. And I don't think a guy gives up money unless he knows he's doing it to keep another player, especially an Aaron Rodgers on your team. I just think there's too many signs. I think 2 months ago, last year especially, everything pointed to him leaving Green Bay. Everything you read now points to him staying in Green Bay.
Yeah, he's definitely calmer this time around.
And kind of weird though. Like he says some weird stuff, and I don't know. He's kind of he's out there. He's very Northern California, Santiago.
Yeah, which we know why things are happening.
Spacey,
how he reacts.
yeah. It's very spacey, but I'm very interested.
I like his brother though. His brother's a little bit on par with me, but I don't know.
Yeah. No, Jordan Rodgers is great. I mean, Jordan Rodgers is funny because he hits on every household level because he's a former. He's either was on The Bachelor or was a Bachelor. That's where he met his wife, I think JoJo. So he hits on my wife's level, but also he hits on my level because he's kind of he's a college football guru. I love listening to him. Gives a lot of guys who are recently in the game. Can give a lot of insight to what people are thinking on the field and kind of coaching you through the game while you watch it. So I'm a big fan of him. But they're definitely, I don't think, I've heard that they haven't talked in years, and they're basically two different people. They live life totally different.
Totally different. Ryan, who is the overrated coach in the NFL?
Oh, I was thinking about that yesterday, and I was trying to give you an answer. Geez. And to me, it's a guy who's not even in the NFL right now, and I don't think he ever will be. I think it's John Gruden.
Wow. Why you say that?
Because I think it's a guy gets a stigma like he's this offensive guru, but I've never watched him. Even in Tampa Bay, I thought, oh man, that guy. I love watching his teams play offense. I was like, I think there's more talk to his name than the actual what you get from him. I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I just think he's an overrated coach.
I thought he was okay with the Raiders. I thought when he went to the Bucs, he had a team already built out, and it was more Tony Dungy's team.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That team was already made. He finished it. He's a Super Bowl winning coach, so it's hard to say he's overrated, and that's I'll say that. But I don't think he's. I think you don't for what we talk about him. Before obviously everything that went down last year, we talked to him as if he was this, this can't go wrong, this mastermind, motivator, quarterback guru. Yeah, I think he knows quarterbacks, and I think he was fun to watch, in these draft shows. But I didn't see a lot, whether, his last years in Tampa Bay or even this year in Oakland or Las Vegas. I thought, oh man, this guy's got it. Go, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it didn't really. Well, I don't know. Sometimes I don't know. You just don't know because his tenure at Las Vegas was cut short. I was seeing some improvements.
Yeah, I think that goes on to more about how people would talk about him, when they want him to be a coach, than actually what good a coach he actually is,
Yeah, don't know if he would have made a difference of beating the Bengals in that playoff game. Don't know. I wouldn't think so.
But yeah, I mean that's a question I was thinking when we were in our chat yesterday, and you asked that. It's like I can't give an answer because I don't know 100%. That was the first thing that kind of popped in my head.
I got some other answers, Kyle Shanahan, but that's a different podcast to talk about.
I think I think he's okay. I don't know if he's elite, but he's good. Guys have been there for a long time. One organization kind of stand the test of time. Like a lot of people are saying that Mike Tomlin's overrated, but the fact that he's been with the organization and he's been 500 in a maybe he's not producing always the greatest teams in the world, and his teams are kind of blah sometimes. But the fact that he's never finished below 500 in the age of salary cap where, roster turnover is high, I think that speaks a lot. Everybody's a head coach for a reason because they do something right. They're good at, either X's and O's or motivation.
Some look at analytics a lot more.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know, it's kind of, for years, I think after, talking about Shanahan, I think Mike Shanahan for a long time was living in the, after, won the back-to-back Super Bowls, he's kind of living through those years for a long time, and the Broncos necessarily weren't getting any better and they were kind of regressing. But because everybody thought Mike Shanahan, because he won those 2 Super Bowls, you couldn't get rid of him because of that. That's a guy I think is somebody maybe who was a little bit overrated because, yes, in his time he was great, but overall, he's kind of a one-trick pony. He needed everything. He needed a John Elway. He needed, a great offense line. Once you took that away, he was just an average coach.
You had to get all the pieces there, yeah.
But I mean, if you've been coaching any sport, you're only as good as the players you have on your team. So it's hard to, I think you could find fault in every NFL coach in something, but at the end of the day, you could probably find out, why they're NFL coaches because, they're, either their offensive defensive mind or because of, how they're able to organize a team, So I don't know. It's a tough question to answer.
Yeah, tough question. What a show. Loved it. Baseball, NFL. We went a little bit more longer, but Ryan enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. TheSportsCast.net, at TheSportsCast1. Ryan, thanks for coming on to the Sportscast.
Thank you for having me, Santiago. Have a good one, everybody.
And this was your update.